Okay, now we're gonna get into the spreadsheet again with a newfound perspective. Hopefully the previous information made you aware of how important it is to understand the product and what it is that you or your client is actually selling, and how that creates the unique selling position as well as the company vision and value. Those two are not necessarily connected, but the main thing is to understand that you can't choose or create should-ask questions from frequently asked questions unless you understand how the pain was solved. You can't redirect common industry questions to common industry solutions or should-ask questions without understanding what's being offered and how unique and why it was created and what pains it solved. Now, that makes things a lot easier because you can go back to your frequently asked questions, and now we've got client questions that Brian brought with him as well. And now it's time to begin going through those again. And another thing that you might want to consider is separating your questions in your mind from painkiller to vitamin questions, which is really sales questions versus educational. I'm going to say that again. Painkiller questions are sales, potential sales conversions, where it's easy to direct the question to your amazing pain-killing offer and invention, versus vitamins, which are questions that you definitely could create a great blog post on and be very educational through content curation, syndication, or writing articles or news magazines or whatever, but may not lead directly to sales. It's not directly about the invention, but maybe about a world issue. In other words, it might take a lot longer for you to redirect to your products when you get into discussion. Okay, so let's, examples of that are, can anyone imagine a future powered by 100% renewable energy? Futurist questions are great for creating rapport and extending values. What you need to remember is that vitamin questions are fantastic for creating branding. It's like, wow, this company cares about issues and knowledge, and wow, they were on the Discovery Channel. And Lockheed does that all the time. Lockheed's a aero in-space engineer company, and they have the most innovative product in the technology sector in some sectors. But they'll go on the Discovery Channel and they'll fund gigantic educational documentaries on Hubble and how far the galaxy is, and Stephen Hawking will get paid to tell people how the universe began. Hey, great for PR. Vitamin. Nice to have, but not directly impacting a specific product of an engine that goes on this particular Mach 5 jet engine. Okay? It's a little abstract, but we'll begin to see in your mind. And this is something that Sue and I have talked about adding, is the question potentially a vitamin or a painkiller? Is it nice to have, or is it more product driven? You can organize that however you want. We don't have any specific templates, but let's start with that. So let's go back through the questions. These are the questions with the X are the questions that Brian created yesterday.
Actually, still under the ones that were created by Quora. So now here are the ones that were created by the client and myself.
Okay, we haven't gone through those yet. What I'd like to do, let's go back to sheet 1 real quick. I wasn't ready for that. The X's here are the ones that we created yesterday on Quora. This is what I was saying.
Created.
Yeah, I'm
That's
sorry.
What there is.
I wasn't very clear there. The X's are the ones that you said are hot. The ones with no X's are not. Now we can go through them a second time after researching that product innovation. We know what the client's selling. Let's go ahead and look at them again. You kept this one. What are the top energy topics that the general public should understand? Now, in my mind, I would be asking, is this a potential painkiller or vitamin? Is it product related, or is it educational, informational?
I would consider it educational.
Okay, you would consider it educational. And then what you do is you stop to look at it from the perspective of your invention. Okay, and yeah, I would agree that it's educational. Quora is going to be a lot of educational questions. Okay, so this is why in our Quora course, we use Quora as a great blog headline thing for content curation. We also use it as a fantastic headline generator for general vitamin rapport and ongoing posts and headlines crafting for informational stuff. Okay? Let's go ahead and look at another one. Some of this may not change, but
Needs to see.
okay. Now you're going to go through this whole process and you're going to see if in Quora you find any painkiller. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. And then you're going to take the educational topics back to maybe your article creation. When the site is up and rolling, now you've got your priorities. When the site is up and rolling and you've got content, you're ready to syndicate, start your RSS feeds, your syndication, then you've got plenty of questions to answer. And you can get backlink juice by posting it in Quora. So you've got all this done while at the same time crafting your ISD name. Okay? And we know that your copy needs a lot of work on the homepage, and you're actually creating an entirely new site. You've got your work cut out for you before you start, unless you're actually managing, so if you've got a lot of outsourced help. Using Domain Web Studio, it's entirely possible. If you've got the budget, to put all that into one giant framework, right, Sue?
Yep.
If you want to. So you've got that. You can have people running with this if you've got the budget and taking these out. You do. So that's great. Let's just take you want to spot check one? Some of these, just go down a few.
Sure.
What are some of the top tier consulting companies that have active presence in the renewable energy industry?
Educational again.
I would probably say that you're definitely in the ballpark of painkiller.
Yeah.
What I would do with this one is I would make this, what does a top tier consulting company mean? And you guys are a top tier consulting company, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I would probably break this down into, this is so close to painkiller. I mean, you could potentially convert sales directly from this question out of Quora. Okay, depending upon how you positioned it. And I think the way that I would position that is what does a top tier company actually mean? I would actually turn it into painkiller. I would come up with standards. What thought leaders normally do, which is where inventions come from, is they create standards. They may pull it out of thin air sometimes, but eventually what they pull out of thin air becomes standard.
And that standard, if you're inventing it, can be wrapped around what your company does.
Correct.
Unique processes and various approaches.
And again, this is the hardest part that we have to teach because if people don't do it intuitively, it's something that I thought everybody did. Check this out. What are some top tier consulting companies? What the hell are they talking about? What does top tier even mean? Don't be told, you tell them what it means. Mm-hmm. No, let me tell you what top tier means, because we is. And come back with that and craft your selling proposition. We already know. I actually want your unique position to be more about the full service stuff.
Yeah.
I want top tier to equal full service.
Yeah.
They're not top tier if they're not full service. And in my opinion, I would turn that entire thing around. I would create the top tier issue. And of course, many of the services that are going to be claiming to be top tier on that Quora question are not full service.
Maybe change the word top tier to full service.
Either that or make top tier equal full service.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Look, he who has the money makes the rules.
He who has the ingenuity makes the rules.
And he who has the ingenuity has the money. Therefore, we're both right. Don't get smart. Welcome to our world. I forgot we were on video. So my point here is that I view this as a serious potential painkiller. Because when you come from the standard approach, I don't know how educational it is about top tier. I mean, is that really a question that somebody will see on the Discovery Channel? I mean, maybe.
True.
Maybe, you might be right. I don't know. I'm not really arguing with him, just saying that. I would change that. Ryan, what are some good books on renewable energy?
Education.
And if your CEO wrote a book, it's painkiller.
Yes, of course.
Okay,
Why did you choose that as an important question for the list?
I think it's important to help people who really believe in green energy to better educate themselves before they make that kind of a large financial commitment. And sometimes people can make a decision based on an article they read, but sometimes they need to read an entire book or a series of books to gain a full aspect of making a commitment like that.
I could not agree more. And my single most important secret in content curation is using Amazon and the actual books and their content as authorities to frame your own authority.
Yes.
It's the single most important tip that I can offer to content curators.
I mean, in that context, I would sort of actually give a book list, and I would put that on the sites, as a bookshelf of saying, these are what we consider our preferred books that will help you to understand this better.
Such as the preferred book list that you hopefully got when you came to this certification.
Yes.
Just 12 books that you never found. There's a reason for that, because it frames authority and it implies that I've read them. even if I haven't. And so one of the things with content curation is similar.
I've read most of them.
Amazon,
There's a few I haven't.
sure. Amazon is really important for that because I've noticed some pretty powerful framing. I've noticed lowering of bounce rates when I have a book report, blog post. I've seen a lot of different things. It's because authors provide authorities that very few people can provide by the very fact that they've tangibilized things like that. It's a really weird environment right now, and content curators fail to fully understand the power of books. And we'll talk about that more in our content curation course. Our members have access to that if they've purchased the curation products course. Can anyone imagine a future powered by 100% renewable?
Educational.
Okay. That's iffy. See, soon I can spin anything into a painkiller, so you gotta be careful with that.
Okay.
Go ahead and put / painkiller on that.
Yeah.
And you're spot on. Just know that it's really, I love this. I love the fact that copywriters would put painkiller next to each one of these.
Yeah.
People who are editors and writers will default by educational because they'll read the question and due to their filters, they'll see a question.
Yeah.
They won't see the question behind the question.
Yeah.
So let me stop a little bit and talk quickly about the question behind the question.
Yeah.
Remember when I said that it's all about vitamin or painkiller? But I also said I dropped a major bomb and I gave away some neurolinguistics programming tips that I paid a lot of money to learn. One of those is that every single question is a pain. And Dr. Gregory Burns was able to show in the lab using MRI technology that more or less the brain is receiving a reward when it asks a question, but having that reward taken away when the question is answered. Every question also has a question behind it. Like, what's the purpose of asking? Unless they're auto-generated questions. Quora, I can see, Quora is an experiment. Even the folks at Quora are not sure how it's going to survive, if it's going to survive. If people start automating and auto-generating questions and so on and so forth, we've talked about this. The question behind the question implies that somebody is motivated or compelled to ask something, but they don't really know exactly why they're asking it. Or they just really have no good reason, they're bored. That's one possibility. Quora actually invites a lot more of that than we've ever had before. But generally speaking, there is a pain or a question or a motivation behind the question. Let's take the example of the drill or the hole. That's a famous metaphor in marketing, right? Don't sell the drills, sell the holes. Which is not as accurate anymore with social media. It's like, what kind of holes? For what reason? How deep? And then you need, we have all this stuff. But what is the question behind the question? If somebody comes to me and asks me, how do I, what kind of picture is my daughter's, should I hang in my daughter's bedroom? Unless I continually ask slippery slope questions, I don't know that they really want to buy a drill. The process of really excellent slippery slope marketing and to compel an audience and create copy that crushes it is setting up your funnel and your processes and your education to take even an abstract question like, what kind of picture should I hang in my daughter's bedroom? To know that people who ask for pictures, people who have daughters and people who have bedrooms all might be interested in holes. Not necessarily only drills. You see what I'm saying? So the question behind the question is something that, this is why questions are the answer. Every great consultant, every great interviewer is constantly asking those 4 questions that you suggested yesterday that you ask all your clients, which is?
Got me off guard there.
Gotcha.
I would say it's what is the profits that you want to make on a monthly basis? What's your average profit per sale? What's your current conversion rate of your site? And
Why do you want a website?
And why do you want a website?
Good, no, that's okay. So you have your questions already constructed, right? So when your client is asking questions, your customer is asking questions, there's always a motivator. You want to get to that motivator as quickly as possible. Now, sometimes it's if it's too convoluted, that means it's not close enough to the surface. It'd be too hard to find it. It's like not an important question. There's a lot of irrelevant questions in the universe. That's why artificial intelligence doesn't exist yet. Because they have to ask all the questions to get to the important one. Same thing here. You'll find that a lot of these questions will have the real pain right close to the surface. If it's got pain close to the surface, try to craft it into something that sells your product, or try to craft it into something that puts it in the frame that might perceive your product as a viable solution or option, or at least interesting. Might turn your product into a story. See what I'm saying? This is mastery. It's very difficult for people who haven't been trained to do it, and that's why we're training. Okay, so what is the future of energy storage and how does it impact renewables?
Pain.
Wow, that was a fast flip.
He knows the correct answer to every question is pain.
I mean, one of the things that is the pain aspect of this is people want to understand a little bit of the unknown. They're making a large investment in their solar energy product or their geothermal, and they want to know that will sustain itself for the future,
right?
And that they will have the bleeding edge technology that they're going to install.
Exactly, and I want to add to something that Brian just said, and it's a secret tip that I know Sue and I have we've experienced in our own business. Content curation, news feeds, story crafting. One of the topics that you automatically want to put in your blog category is featuring. Whatever that is for your industry, it's because there are very few pains as all-consuming as the unknown future. Books like Future Babble, Made to Stick, all these things talk about human behaviors and motivators as being primarily stemmed by the unknown in the future.
Yeah, it's one of those mental triggers that people go through, is that fear of the unknown. And
I would actually go further and say that it's the mental state that they're constantly in. There's a difference between states and triggers in NLP. And unknown future, or future shock, as it was discussed in the book by Alvin Toffler, is the ground condition of human existential anxiety. This is why all of the Twitter feeds, all of the Facebook feeds, all the headlines that have fear, angst, and death get clicked, and a significantly amount more. And while there's only one news company in the United States that deals with positive headlines, and you have to pay to get it. Wow, this is a true story. Let's look at this really closely because you're not going to hear this.
Sorry, say that again.
Okay.
Is that only one?
Myself. There's only one news feed in the United States that I've found so far. I may be wrong. This may have changed since last year. That has positive only news stories. Wow. And you have to pay $47 a year to get that feed. So if I wanted, for example, to put an RSS feed to my Facebook page that only brought positive news, I would have to pay. If I want scary, future-driven angst from prisonplanet.com and from infowars.com, free everywhere, all the time, angst, run screaming into the night, YouTube channels, end of the world, blah, blah, blah. Believe me, I know. I view thousands of videos per month because I curate videos on a large scale. Wow. And the videos with the clicks are the fear and the angst. We're going to talk more about that in our sales and marketing course about why you need to be careful with generating fear and angst as far as your brand, because your brand can become associated with negative news, like Prison Planet, InfoWars, and the rest. It gets a lot of traffic, but there's also a repercussion. So when we talk about this, questions, the reason this is related is you want to have featuring topics. If you ever want to generate a click, just pretend that you know the future or question the future. This is called cognitive dissonance. Create some dissonance around that and then provide the solution at the end of the article.
Right.
We do it, read our posts again, you'll see that we do it pretty much every week.
Yeah.
Guess what? Google Panda. What is the whole SEO industry driven by? Nothing but a gigantic fear of what's going to change.
The next big bad bear.
Yeah, I hear that all the time. In every forum that I'm in, it's I will this, I will change that.
I'm asking everybody here in this conversation to go deeper. Read a book called Future Babble. It's now on Sue and I's book list for all of us, okay, by Dan Gardner. The issue is this. When you go back and analyze what's actually changed after 3 years of hell and fear, angst, and RSS feeds that tout nothing but mayhem and doomsday and the apocalyptic zombie apocalypse. See, even here, Future Battle, even though it's humorous, it's still there. Mm-hmm. So What Dan Gardner discovered with high stakes analysis and heavy duty social analysis and actually checking on the stories, a significant portion of most of the stories over a 2 to 3 year period that create fear, angst, and generate a lot of traffic never come to pass. In other words, the things that actually changed, if you actually listen to the feed, the news feed about what's going to change, you would think that the world would look like nothing. We'd be invaded by aliens. There would no longer be a government. You wouldn't have food supplies. Oil would be gone. Everybody would be dead, and we'd all be auto-generated robots with chips in our brains.
Mushroom landscape.
Yeah. But when you go back and you actually look at what's happened, it's less than the % of a percent actually changes. And so we call this future battle. So what you want to do is you want to, this is heavy medicine here, but if you want to generate traffic and clicks and attention, it's unfortunate, but the way our brains are wired with the reticular activator is to pay close attention to either actual change on the page, pixel, that's what do you call it, pixel?
Save the pixel.
Save the pixel. Distinction through who moved my cheese, what's different. Okay, people look at images and the image that's the weirdest, Frank Kearns uses, check out this weird technique to generate traffic. Now weird is not even weird anymore, right? It's all about distinction. It's designed to create weirdness, traffic, uniqueness, distinction, or that can be done through fear, through color, through blinking lights, reticular activation. Right? This is neuromarketing 101. The reason I tell you this now, and the reason I'm interjecting this now, is that the ultimate form of headlines, if you always want to get somebody's attention that crosses the widest amount of audience in your market, use future babble. Don't make it too scary, otherwise you fall in the realm of no one will believe you. But just make it, hey, that's a great question. What's the future of energy and how does it impact renewables? A way to make that scarier would say, will the world run out of renewable resources? Question mark. Okay, that's compelling. I may not do that, and it's up to your PR and your company, how you want to position those kind of questions. My point is that those are ways you can create headlines that are significantly more clickable on Twitter and anywhere else when you get up the pyramid of, when you get up our perpetual lead magnet machine.
Right.
They're significantly more clickable as we auto tweet through tweet extraction those headlines in the articles. Okay? All right, so enough lecturing neuromarketing. How do angel investors generally think about startups and focus on renewable energy space?
I consider this an EDU.
Okay. Can we write some of these in there? Is that correct? Is that
That's a pain.
That's a pain.
it's a pain, right?
EDU.
And let's hear it from you, Brian, since you're really starting to get this. How would you reposition that as a pain, just off the cuff? I'm sure it's very good.
Honestly, I would try to talk about the longevity of a storage device for a particular product that they were selling, and talk about how much the technology has advanced or will advance over that period of time, and what benefits that would bring to a potential customer.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's fine. And as you're writing, you might come up with other ideas. I know that I do. If I start writing stuff out. Okay, let's just try a couple more and then we'll move on to the actual client questions. Interesting. Here's definitely, what's the question behind the question, Matt? And Brian? What's the question behind the question? Will renewable energies be developed fast enough to offset emission? What's the question behind the question?
The measurement of resources.
Lack.
Yes, they're obviously playing off scarcity.
Lack.
And the lack of
Scarcity.
Yeah.
Is that a strong driver of the underlying question behind the question, behavior, and painkiller in your market?
Yeah, there's a lot of concern there.
Write it down. Because we've just come into the 4 areas that Sue and I were talking about pain. Lack is key. Okay, I know you're recording this, so I'm writing it down as a metaphor. So you're going to see a lot of the questions behind the questions. You only have about 4 or 5 questions behind the questions, no matter how many questions you have. I'm going to repeat that.
That's interesting.
Okay. You only have about 4 or 5 questions behind the questions in any market. Even if you have 50 million frequently asked questions, you've only got 4 real questions. How am I going to run my car? How am I going to get power? How am I going to not have lack? Okay? And you know, they talk about in the spiritual traditions or in the meditational traditions that you can see through someone. An excellent neural marketer sees through everyone. There's only 4 or 5 things going on.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what that is. It's just the so-called spiritual thing. It's just really understanding human motivation. And neurolinguistics programming, I recommend everybody check that out. The viewers, if you have an opportunity to look at some NLP, you'll find it gets kind of funny. I paid $5,000 for this course, and what did I learn? That questions are the answer. You know, I mean, literally, I paid $1,000 to learn the single most important neurolinguistic secret that this guy had.
It was like your submarine story earlier, where the guy came in and pushed one button and charged
$10,000 for pressing one button? How can you do that? I said, I knew which button to press. It's true, it's a skill set. If the button changes every time, you really want to make sure you're paying. And we're in a moving market.
And then move the button.
Well, we're in a moving market. Matt, Sue, and myself, the button does change every time. That's called market research. It's ISDNA, and that's why you should get paid so much. That's why I was telling you you're underpaid for your current research models. But you got to position it to get more. That's why the company that the same guy paid $50,000 for was blown away and angry when you came to him with less than a tenth of the cost. Of course. With better research. Of course. And you're not going to do that anymore, right? So everybody watching this, don't go to Brian if you have less than $10,000 because he's not going to work for you. I shouldn't say that.
I was hoping it was going to say 100,000, but that's
So one of the reason that $1,000 question I learned from the neurolinguist NLP expert is so valuable is that it actually addresses 4 of the questions behind the questions at the same time. Is that the best you can do? Hit $1,000 for that. Okay. Is that the best you can do? Why is that such a powerful? I've tried it. It works. But you have to deliver it. You got to be like, you have to deliver it in the right way. You have to allow some space after you say it for the person to answer. And he actually showed me live, like how it worked. We went into a shop. He was buying jewelry. And the guy, we were in a foreign city where I was taking the course, Chicago. And he went into a jewelry shop in a hotel mall area. Which I thought, I have all this recoil. It's like, oh, don't break the rules, don't do this, right? I figured we were in a retail store. And that, when you see $500 for a necklace or $200, he was looking at a $200 thing for his wife, fly back, right? I figure you don't ask questions like that. I just buy it. If I can't afford it, I move on. He was looking at this one particular thing, which is a particular stone that his girlfriend likes, one of those blue, I can't remember the name of the rock. Yeah, no. It was nothing about
Sapphire.
Yeah, sapphire. And it was perfectly mounted and it had a particular symbol that she liked. And the guy, he asked how much it was, $200. And he pulled out his Jedi mind tricks. Is that the best you can do? It wasn't condescending or anything like that. Is that the best that you can do? And he was very authentic about it. And I was feeling nervous. Like I immediately wanted to fill the space with copy. Blah, 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 blah. I was like, he made me very uncomfortable. And that's because at the time I had issues. I don't have those issues anymore. I ask constantly. Is that the best? I do it to real estate. I do it to spaces that I'm renting for conferences. I do it. But
Hotel reservations.
But the owner, it happened to be the owner of one of the owners of the shop. He actually paused. Hey, how about 120? He got a $50 discount just because he asked.
Yeah.
At that point on, I remember the blood running out of my face, like my whole body was going, like, these are not the droids you.
It's like, I'm really embarrassed to be this guy. Oh, okay.
Well, that's when that was actually when I started to wake up.
Right.
These are not the droids you were looking for. A stronger way of saying that would be, are these the droids you are looking for? Are you sure? Because questions actually reformat the brain into an open loop. And they open up a space which increases dopamine. And in that discomfort, you want to close that space.
Yeah.
Questions are not comfortable. But they're something that we love to do, we love to ask. And if you can position them in the right way, especially when the question behind the question is meaningful, think about that. Is that the best you can do? He was addressing lack. He was addressing value. He was addressing insecurity. He was casting doubt in the mind of the retail person, which is arbitrary price anchoring. Mm-hmm. In other words, he addressed something called innuendo that Sue and I talk about in other courses. Innuendo is very tricky with language. Value is only what we say it is. Okay, but there's also a market value. You have to address the global market story while you're addressing the personal story. So the innuendo is that the store owner suddenly was cast into question. Maybe he knows how much I'm marking this up. He knows that I know that he knows that I know that he knows that how about 120? So, what does this have to do with this, besides everything? Everything. The better question will win because it deals with the questions behind the question. So what I'm asking everybody to do is to go for the questions behind the question. Brian is doing a fantastic job of doing that now because now your brain's working a little bit different. What is the question behind the question? And if this seems like a lot of work, it is. This is why you should get paid more for repositioning and for market value. Because if you really get to that single button, absolutely, there really is one primary pain, maybe four in a gigantic industry, but one primary pain. If you master one question behind the question in every industry, your client is going to think you're a demigod. They're not going to understand what you're doing or how you did it. Because the processes that you've gone through to do it have taken me 20 years to create and include teachers from all over the world. And to come through a process like that, now you're applying those processes in your own business for your client, and you'll be able to go into conversion. So let's try that again. What's the question behind the question, Brian? Read the question for me.
So, will renewable energy be developed fast enough to offset diminishing oil production?
Question behind the question?
The lack of oil production.
And question behind that question? Lack of
Well,
Lack of oil.
question behind the question? Human fear? Lack of
security.
Yeah, insecure.
thank you.
Yeah.
It's not about the oil, it's not about the oil production. That's great, and those are great topics.
Turns off to work.
But that's not the
Chemical
category.
has.
That's not what I'm afraid of. What I'm afraid of is not being able to have any resources. It's lack of resources. A great book called Metaphors. Also the 21 master plots. There's only 21 master plots in Hollywood, and all of them deal with one fundamental fear. So we'll talk about that, but they also deal with other fundamental issues. All right, next, so we're going to go ahead and put painkiller with the big capital P right there. How are we doing for time? Should we wrap this one up?
We're good.
Okay. What are the key differences between green, sustainable, clean, renewable, alternative? Okay, we've got a bunch of stuff strung together. There's more than one question here.
Yes.
I learned from C that you have to parse. And I spend most of my life taking apart things that people think are one question and breaking them down into 7.
Yeah, and I would say it is a pain, but it's a pain that needs to be segmented.
Therefore, educational.
Yes.
Thank you. Because a great marketer will always break the pain down. I really only like to have one needling pain on one clothes.
Yeah, because otherwise you get too many ideas.
Cognitive
and
dissonance.
People become
It
confused.
just creates confusion if there's too many
Exactly.
ideas
And they might freak
embedded
out.
in the question.
And then
Yeah.
you just ignore the whole thing. You just click off the page and go
Literally, you
somewhere
shut
else.
down.
Yeah.
This has been shown in the pain research, great book Made to Stick, okay, that you can only handle so many problems at once.
Yeah.
So don't overwhelm them unless you're on a never-ending scrolling sales page. Sales page, that's different. The reason
It
that
still work though.
the
Surprisingly.
reason that it works is that you can scroll down. You can control the flow of pain by zipping
By your
down.
scroll speed.
Context is content. So anything that I'm telling you,
And that's why they offer multiple buy now buttons too.
Throughout that
So that
chain.
as soon as you
How much
reach
pain are
that
you in?
threshold, you hit the buy
how
button.
much pain are you in? And a lot of softwares that had early on tested how much they scroll. There's a lot of factors. What are you selling? What's in it for me? How much does it cost? And why should I believe you? The why should I believe you is covered. Take Warriors Forum in any place like that. That's nothing but a pain fest. Okay, it's nothing but a marketing fest. There are people who buy other people's products without even reading the sales copy anymore because they know the value they deliver, right? As an example. So there's all these factors that why someone asks, but what are the best energy efficiency or renewable blogs to follow? What do you think, Brian? Question behind the question.
I think it's an educational tool.
I would agree. But this is actually, I would actually call this, there's a third category, self-promoting. People who ask these kind of questions are usually 100% self-promoting.
Yeah.
Okay, but that's okay, you can still use them. Let's make it educational. And is it better to support a single renewable energy source or develop a number of possible applications? What do you think?
I would say it's pink.
And I would also point out that yesterday you would have called it educational, so you've come along.
Yes. Okay.
Which consulting firms do the most impactful work in renewable energy, sustainable, or clean tech?
Pink.
Okay.
The
That's
the
true.
only caveat with that is clean tech could be brand specific, or it could be the terminology.
Yeah, it's really tricky because who's going to decide what impactful means?
Yes.
That sounds like a self-promoting question.
It is a
to me.
self-promoting question. This is somebody who decided, if you go over to the column, you'll see it's one of the companies. Yeah, I'm telling you, energy aspect.
So split it into educational and
Yeah, see,
admin.
that's so non-transparent that I was able to predict that an energy company itself wrote that question.
Yeah.
And it's actually badly guarded PR. It's not even really well
No.
done. You should do better stuff. Remember, you can add your own questions to Quora.
Yeah.
You can make them much better when you know the question behind the question. You can ask a question so that the question behind the question is addressed.
Well, this is actually
Trigger the next
addressing
one.
that. It's actually, finding out the dead wood that's in there and allowing us to develop the high energy wood and putting that fuel back into Quora.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just renewable energy standards. Is that the best we can do?
I actually find it interesting that 285 people have looked at that question.
Yeah, but they didn't catch the little Jedi mantra coming in. They just dropped clean tech with a question mark.
Yeah.
It's just really not, well, I mean, they think they're being mini Jedi, but it's not. And that's okay. So, but you can still use it. The cool thing is now the question exists. You can insert your own video. Your CEO's,
hyphen gave it away.
yeah, well, your CEO's own video or more of an educational video should be inserted into that post later on when you're promoting. Okay? And you will get conversions and opt-ins off that if your opt-ins are compelling.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's all good, and this is a little bit tricky. Just self-promotion, you're going to struggle with the painkiller FAQ. What are the most cost-effective, blah, blah, blah.
So what is it? EduPain.
That's definitely a pain in the sense that cost is one of the key.
Impactful.
The impact one. I would mark that as pain slash.
Yeah, the problem is the definition. If you have a question that's made up of a lot of words that could be broken down and might be different, then it becomes problematic. Because there's an opportunity here in the word impactful, because of course, web is the most impactful. Right? Obviously. But the main thing is that you have to redefine impactful by this question. I found many Quora questions where I rephrase the question. It offers you a unique forum to ask a should ask question, because you can actually come out and say that's not the question you should ask.
Yeah.
I've got great vote ups whenever I've done that.
Yes.
I've even said, thank you for the question. I don't think it's the best possible question. Is that the best you can do? I don't think so. Here's a better question. Okay. So if you go down here, what are some of the most cost-effective renewable energy strategies? Did you say pain for that?
I would say pain in the sense that it's addressing one of the major core components of cost.
What is the question behind the question? You're right, and let's go into it.
Yeah.
Cost
Cost-effective.
and green buildings.
Big giant exclamation mark on this, because I love
Yeah.
cost-based questions.
Yeah.
Because that is like the pain behind the pain. Money is a significant pain behind almost every pain. In fact, you can take most of the most compelling neurolinguistics behaviors and neural processes, and you will find that money is one of the single most all-encompassing drivers of human behavior right now.
Because you're dealing with,
I would put a big pain on that one.
yeah, you're dealing with the ultimate lack, the lack of everything.
Money is a funny business. There's an amazing book, and those of you watching, I just get a copy. It's on our list. It's called Neuroeconomics by Jason Zweig. Oh, your money or your brain?
Money or brain, yeah.
Yeah, your money or your brain. It was shocking to me when I read it, and it changed the way that I thought about myself. It was actually really quite unsettling when I realized
Yeah.
how my brain operates with money. Because there's several tests in there about how we anchor up and how we use money. And see, money is not natural for our brain. Our brain is split in two. It's gift economy or cash economy. We'll get into that later. Okay, renewable energy, is wind power the best? Question behind the question?
Obviously, the derivative there is wind power, and it's breaking it down into a specific category, renewable. Obviously, best is the key thing that I would be focused on here.
Correct.
Yeah.
Now what I love, and we're going to get into this in a later video, I've got a whole chart created in Glyphy about there is really, I was going to keep this till later, there's really only one ultimate painkiller.
Comparison.
Decision insurance.
Okay.
The only thing ever happening is people are just trying to make decisions. And if you're asking a question, you're in pain because it means you don't know. You're trying to close that loop. That's why a question mark is a hook. Literally a hook. Literally. Like a fishing hook. You're fishing for prospects. You close that, dopamine is open, you close that loop, that's the answer.
Exclamation.
Yeah. You want to make sure that your client has reached in, it's like the monkey palm. Monkeys reach into the hole in the wall and they close their fist and they want to open it. You want to make sure that you hook them with a question that you've got them.
Yes.
By either a better question or an answer that they've either paid for or given you the email address for.
Yeah,
We'll talk about that in our
I would reel that into a comparison question that would come up with the best suggested answers that would reel them into the sales flow.
The question behind the question is, I have money and I need to pick an alternative energy for my home.
What's my best
I'm about to buy wind. Should I? No. First reason, you don't sell wind. That's not your innovator's dilemma. That's not your innovator's solution. That's not your ISDNA. That's not your product. What are you selling? How much does it cost? What's in it for me? And why should I believe you? No, we don't sell wind. Why not? Really? Like major painkiller.
Yes.
I mean,
Whenever anybody says best, and there's multiple, and it's a depends, and it depends question, I love those because you can come in and sound like a complete authority. You spell out all of the reasons why
All the benefits
it depends,
of one. Yeah.
and
Well,
you
if
should come over here to my website for more information.
and there's two ways of doing that. There's the really stupid ways that a lot of guys in Quora do it. Well, if you have to ask, my mosquito fly swatter is the best. This actually happened to me. We have a client who sells an amazing product that was well engineered with a major painkiller innovation. It's a mass mosquito vacuum.
Yes.
Okay, and they own the company. He's a long-term client of ours, long-term domain name studio user. And his father, who's the owner of the company, actually did the video. They make $20,000 a month on just that unit. All right? So we opened the core question, started getting a lot of traffic. Some guy came in under the question, what's the best way to blah, blah, blah mosquitoes? And he added some affiliate link off of Amazon, which was an electro zapper mosquito, like a 75 cent, blah, blah, blah. Well, just use a mosquito paddle zapper. Like, horrible product, no real innovation, no real thought. And just made himself look really, really bad. Okay, that's one way to reposition. Well, what is the best way to get rid of mosquito, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we were wide open for dumb answers when you do that. Okay, but you're also wide open for excellent answers.
Yep.
And so what Sudas was saying, and I agree with him, that where's the best question? Okay. What I love about this process is that if you've talked to the inventor, if you truly have an innovation DNA, something that somebody created an awesome, innovative product, an invention, and you have more facts and information, you're gonna walk in there and say, look, in the sense that you're not, it's very likely that your company is not selling wind for a specific reason. If you zoom in onto that reason,
Exactly.
you're gonna blow out everybody on this question.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I will never ever consider wind again.
Right.
No, that's a real possibility.
Yes. And the virality of that is just enormous.
Yeah.
Focus on the gray area.
Yeah.
When somebody's asking a question like this, there's best. There's other people that come out and say, solar power is better because we sell it. Solar power is not better because you sell it. Solar power is better because of the immense amount of processes and inventive procedures and research that your company and multi-million-dollar CEO went to determine that wind power is suboptimal. Here's why. Oh, where should I buy? I want to hire you guys, man.
Yeah.
I want you. Okay, this is what Perry Marshall and many other copywriters that I've studied with have taught us. It's not so straightforward, you see. But it becomes straightforward once you create this foundation.
Yep.
You only have to do this once. Those of you watching, this may seem like a long series. You're going to find a lot more videos in ISDNA than you do in many, many others, with the exception of the keyword stuff. The reason is that you'll never have to do this again. And you're going to come out looking like an amazing copywriter, an amazing researcher, a product positioner, and an ultimate brander of social media all at once.
Well, this process also makes your research next step more refined because you're not going to solo serve.
Exactly.
You're going to go in and fetch what you need.
Matt,
That's the job.
let's look at what Matt's saying here. The challenge we've had in the past, which is why we brought all our research knowledge to this, which we charge usually a lot more for, why we're giving you some of this as part of this course, is that many of you were silo surfing in the Kraken days. The themes in 1.0 days, it was way worse.
I was on a hamster treadmill when I first started.
Yeah, that's because questions are the answer, and you can really get this experience because your dopamine goes way up when you're researching. It's fun. You actually think that you're getting stuff done.
It's the biggest illusion.
And that's an illusion that I've profited from in the past. Because we make tools. Hey, sell shovels to gold diggers. That's always been the model for billionaires. I'm a future billionaire, so of course I'm going to sell shovels. However, if you're watching this course, I want to make sure that you are not stuck forever just digging. I want you to actually start selling shovels.
Well, that's why we went into the whole ISDNA, so that you can actually get
I
to
want-
building a website.
I want you to understand that it's great to research.
Well, you're not going to just sell salvage, right? So you're going to have the hardware store that sells everything.
That's right. That's what Matt and Sue and I are, and Brian, obviously, we're trying to help you build the store that sells the shovels and help your clients build the stores that sell
And
the
get to
shovels.
those golden nuggets faster.
Yeah.
Boom. But I gotta warn you, giant flashing warning. When we give you this, your tendency is going to be to sell it too cheap.
Yeah.
And if you're gonna sell it too cheap, you're better off just continuing to sell keyword research tools and continuing to sell shovels. Because
Keyword research.
this is the book, Moving Beyond the Price-Driven Sale. The Price-Driven Sale, my #1 book in my arsenal. So you've got to raise that price to use Matt's tool, to use Sue's tool.
Yeah.
You've got to raise the price to stop silo surfing, because what we're giving you with the ISDNA is literally a jet engine where you only had a bicycle. Okay. So one more and then we'll end.
Yeah.
Okay. Brian, what is it like to work with a renewable energy company at a day-to-day level? Question behind the question.
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah.
Obviously, the question is the day-to-day aspects of what goes on in renewable energy.
It's more than that. Think beyond that.
Question behind the question, very simple. You're right, Brian, it could be interpreted in many ways, some of them best.
Obviously, yeah. About the work, I would assume.
It's hard to interpret. Can I say something?
Yes.
It's hard to interpret this question for me because I feel like it was motivated by somebody who really just wants to know, like, I'm at Berkeley and I want to get into this industry
Yeah.
and I want to install stuff for Cleve. I want to go to a job board.
He wants to know about the future.
I would actually go to this question to read his meeting and read the responses to determine whether it's a pink pill or vitamin, to be honest.
Okay, so it's a type of futuristic.
It is.
Look at the start of the sentence, that first phrase. What's it like to work in
Yes.
renewable energy development?
So what is the question behind the question? What's the pain, if there is one?
Is there an educational opportunity in this space?
Excellent. The keyword, opportunity.
Yeah.
Opportunity is a prospecting term, futuring.
He's trying to future-proof his decision.
Yes.
I could definitely turn that into a painkiller. It's probably meant to be a vitamin.
Yeah.
But we don't care.
That when if someone said that, you could come at so many angles just on that first phrase there, because he's sort of exposed himself in what he's asking.
Yes.
I would say most companies it's really hellish to work for because they're not well coordinated with other companies.
Yeah.
And when you end up butting heads with people when you get in the job, you could actually spin it if you want to.
Well,
Yeah.
obviously, a company like this, like Cleve Energy, who's going to be growing exponentially because of what the tool set that you're bringing to them, obviously they're going to need to hire people, and those people are looking. They're interested in understanding the market and the potential of what it would be like to work in that environment. Right?
Let's switch.
That could be one way of
let's,
looking at it.
let's switch industries and let me show you how we do it exactly with the exact same question with my industry. Okay, and create sales. I would say most of the time it's pure hell because there's no standards. And you are running around like a chicken when I'm going to paraphrase this in a very professional language, okay? I'm going to say, because there's so many keywords, and so many backlink tools, and so many ways to develop websites, and no clear results standards, you end up becoming the butt of the joke, and you end up becoming the one who eats it in the end, because we're in an industry in flux and there's no standards.
Because your day-to-day job's like walking on quicksand.
But working for ThemeZoom, or with ThemeZoom tools, our invention has fixed all that. We have standards because we create them, and we created them because we invented tools that came out of pain. And that was the pain. The pain was lack of standards, lack of consistency, lack of research integration processes. When we solved that problem, it's now a pleasure to work in the industry because we have clear step-by-step processes every step of the way that are clear to define and clearly build out processes.